What you call a young man curious? Drawing on a beat and you know I'm serious. Podcast only need 30 minutes. Experience, but I'm new to this business. About to start a project dependent on acquaintance from new and old business. I thank God for the vision. Every episode, new wisdom. We just talking about real business, like how they making money and how they living. I'm just trying to do something different, cause I'm just a young man curious. I'm just a young man curious. Yeah, I'm just a young man curious. Welcome to episode 1 of the I'm Just Curious project. In my very first episode, I get to sit down with someone I consider to be a brother. His name is Khamisie Green. And it's been a little bit since we had this conversation, but since then he's been killing the game. He's currently a law school student at Texas Southern University, Thurgood Marshall School of Law. He's currently serving as the chief of staff for the Student Bar Association and the vice president for the Black Law Association. This summer, he's doing an internship at Lockheed Martin. I hope you enjoy the conversation that he and I have. All right, so what's up, my guy? Tell the people who you are, a little bit about yourself.
All right, my name is Khamisie Green. I'm from the great city of Odessa, Texas. I am currently in law school right now. That's a new adventure. Father, got 2 baby girls, the most beautiful girls in the world. Yeah, that's me.
Cool, man. Cool. We're going to see how great you think Odessa is as we continue to talk. But tell us a little bit about your upbringing, man. Tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah. So like I said, I was raised in Odessa. I was raised by my maternal grandmother. My mother was, my story seems so dark, but it's not dark to me, because it just started off like, that's not good. But,
Yeah.
My mom, both of my parents are deceased. My father was old when I was born, and so, he was kind of already on his way out. But he passed away when I was 14. My mom passed away when I was 4, and so my grandmother ended up raising me. And right there in Odessa, I'm a church boy.
Yeah.
And so, I grew up in this, we call it the hood. And those of us from Odessa, we call it the hood on Snyder Street. But most people would never believe me when I'm like, no, I was raised in the hood because I'm cleaned up. But I went to phenomenal elementary school. I tested into a junior high performing arts school, so I picked up instruments like the cello, piano, voice. I'm a singer. So I was a church kid because that's kind of what my life was and is, centered around, was that. So that kind of is what led to where I am now. Because in Odessa, pretty much the Black community is the church community, and so you really can't be involved in the community if you're not involved in the church, especially as children. So, that's just what we did. If you were in Odessa, and me and one of my friends from Odessa, we joke about this, is that those of us who were raised in Odessa at our time were just different, because you had to be able to sing, you had to be able to dance, you had to have talent to be in Odessa, and we did. And that talent is what got me to school, and that's how my granny nurtured my talents. She, you're a speaker, so she made me speak. You're a singer, so she made me sing. And then I got into it, and I started caring about myself. And then I ended up going to school as a cellist, and I switched to voice, graduated with a voice degree, and then went to working in higher ed and got a master's in education, and did that. And that's just how my upbringing kind of.
So you said a couple of things, right? You talked about one, having a talent, right? That's kind of a whole thread, right? That Black people or Black men need a talent, right? Kind of like Kendrick Lamar, Pimp the Butterfly type thing. But I think that's definitely true, right? I played the same cards, different talent, but it was the way for me to excel, to get to where I was trying to get to. So definitely. And then you talked a little bit about identifying those talents, using them for your benefit to get you to school. Go ahead and name drop a little bit. Tell us, where you went, did your undergrad work. Give us the details, man. I know you got a couple of degrees under your belt, so.
So I let me backtrack to something that you said. In one of my multicultural perspective classes, so my undergraduate degree is in music and education. One of my undergraduate education courses, they say that for multicultural students, black and brown, Hispanic and black, is that they identify 5 ways that black people can get out of poverty. The number 1 way is a gift.
Yeah.
The number 2 way, people miss this one, is a mentor. Is a mentor. But for us, it was a gift. And so my gift was, I used every one of them I had. but the one that I used was singing. And so I auditioned to go to Abilene Christian University. It's the largest regional school in the West. And I auditioned as in voice, and I auditioned as a cellist. And I got in both. But I chose cello to start. And then I was like, nah, I don't. Playing the cello is very personal to me. And so listening to people be like, that ain't it. They start to stress me out, make me not like it. So I was like, I'm not going to do that. So I switched to voice. And then, because I sing all day anyway. So I was like, I might as well be the best at it that I can be. And so I got a degree in voice. And then, and then I started working in residence life at ACU and found a passion in developing, young minds and educating in that way. And then I got a promotion at Hardin-Simmons, and then I started to get a master's in management degree. And I was getting that degree, and it was not feeding me at all. And so I quit that degree, and the next year I started a master's of education degree that fed me so much more.
Man, so you went from growing up in the hood, different family dynamic, all the way to getting not only undergrad but master's. Share a little bit more about your upbringing, your family dynamic, right?
Yeah.
If you feel comfortable to.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was really just me and my granny.
Right.
I have one older brother. My mama had 2 boys, me and my older brother, and when my mom passed away, his dad ended up taking custody of him. And so we had visitation rights, of course, but so the majority of the time it was just me at the house.
Right.
And so, I was thinking back on it yesterday, and my granny was just so unbothered by everything that I did. I would wake up in the morning and I would be singing at the top of my lungs, 6 a.m. in the morning, getting ready for school. She never complained, never asked me to be quiet, nothing. I would get up in the morning and start practicing my cello terribly. It sounded terrible. She never complained. She was never bothered. I would get ready to go to debate tournaments, and she would, roll up on me in the room and pull your speech out and say, say this.
Yeah.
If they say this, say this.
Right.
And she just kind of like, she was just so tough, and
She was really the one that kind of propelled you toward this path of excelling in success despite where you grew up.
Yeah, and then on top of that, I have to acknowledge, my godparents are also my pastors. They were in the mix as well. So I would leave that in my house, and like I said, church was our lives basically. Right. Church and school, that was our lives. And so, so I would go to church, and my pastors would say, "Wait, God don't want that." We'd be singing "That Ain't It," from your belly, sing it until we could feel it,
right.
Or we would be up speaking or something, and they're like, it's not deep enough in you. You don't walk in fear. You can speak in front of anybody, anywhere. You speak to 10 just like you speak to thousands.
Right.
One time, we were doing Sunday school, and there was almost nobody at Sunday school this Sunday, and Pastor Angela asked me to minister, and it was like 2 people in there. And she stopped me mid-message, and she was like, "You need to preach in here like it was packed." Boy, I preached with all of my might, one of the best messages, and nobody heard it but her. But it changed me internally. And so now, no matter if it's 5, if it's 10, my passion is my passion.
It's still the same.
It don't change, and that just translates into how I lead and how I nurture people, how I engage.
So you talked about, obviously you mentioned a little bit. I know that your father's a pastor, was a pastor, and you've had your own stint at pastoring. Tell us a little bit about that chapter of life. Are you still pastor?
Yeah.
What's up with you with that?
So, I started preaching when I was 9. Because I come from a long line of pastors. My parents. Well, my mama could speak. She was a preacher, so to speak, in her own right. My daddy was a pastor. My godparents are pastors. My god siblings preach.
So it was in your blood.
My granny has her preaching license.
You didn't have no choice but
to so we had to have a little something. And I picked up on that speaking gene so early, and preaching was the avenue for me to be able for that speaking gene to start developing. And so my proclivity to just reading the word, that's really what advanced my education, because we had NIV and KJV when we was growing up. We had King Jimmy. That's what we had.
Thou shalt.
Right. And so I'm reading that fervently as a 9, 10, 11-year-old, and I'm processing really what's going on, and getting up and preaching.
You read than me, I still can't find it. I need the New Living Translation.
Yeah, and so so I preached, and that just was kind of my deal. When I got ready to go to college, I wanted to go to a Christian college because I grew up sheltered, and I was like, I can't go to no Texas Tech and no Texas saying I need to be around the Lord, hold me responsible, So I chose ACU. I was choosing between ACU and Oral Roberts University.
Okay.
And so I chose ACU, and when I got to ACU, I served as a youth pastor at one of the churches in Odessa. I was about 19. They asked me to be the choir director at the youth pastor. I didn't want to.
While you were in Abilene for Odessa?
No, it was for Abilene.
Okay, I got you.
And I was like, okay, I can do this, And then I left that church, and then I went to this other church, and they were like, essentially want you to do the same thing. I was like, okay, cool. But I wanted something more, something different. And I couldn't really find what I wanted. It wasn't home. I wanted something more homey. And 2 of my friends at the time were like, you finna be our pastor. And I said, oh, no, I'm not. I'm not doing that at all. Yeah, you go do it. And so we started having a church in my girlfriend at the time in her apartment. And people were really coming to hear me preach. And then I left that apartment and people stopped coming. And so I was preaching in the basement. And one Sunday I showed up, wasn't nobody there, nobody. And I remember back at home, I was like, I guess I'm going to preach to these chairs.
Yeah,
so I
preached
to them and hard. And I did that for about 6 years, not preaching to the chairs, because over the tenure of that 6 years, we ministered to, and I say we because it was a team of us, but I ministered to a good 600, 700 students at ACU and abroad, traveling, preaching. Our choir, we had a dynamic choir, baddest choir.
Yeah.
And college students, it was all college students. And it was a big movement on campus. Yeah. We bought our own building. Well, we rented out our own building eventually. We had funds to be able to help students with their tuition costs, to buy books, materials that they needed. We paid people's rent, people's car notes. We were in community. We were serving, and we were young.
Right. That's a powerful thing.
23, 22, 19, doing that.
Right.
And so church was something, Yeah. And then we left Abilene and came to Odessa, and we appointed people to oversee that ministry that we had started in Odessa, that college ministry, to keep it going.
Right.
And so they're still doing that now. New Jerusalem is still running.
That's awesome.
Even though, and they call, I oversee, but I wouldn't necessarily say that I'm pastoring right now. I'm in a God gotta get me stage right now in my life. I think that everybody comes to a point where you gotta find out if God is you. Everybody's faith is going to be challenging. Everybody got to do their first works over again.
Yeah.
It's a rite of passage. You got to. It don't matter how early you start. It don't matter how late you start. Right. You're gonna have to start over.
Yeah.
And I haven't even got to the point of starting over. I just know that I'm gonna have to eventually.
Yeah.
And it's rough, but I love that for me, because whenever I do start over, I don't know if I'm gonna end up preaching again or not. But I know that whenever I do start over, when my next chapter really begins, and God puts me back in the front, it's going to be so much different, so much more powerful, so much more.
So talk to us a little bit about the challenges of being a pastor or leading people in general. And I say that's a loaded question. My father's a pastor, so I know I've seen firsthand a little bit. I understand the challenge of dealing with people. So tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so leading people is challenging, very challenging, because people are at different stages developmentally. They're in different stages. They don't know what you know. Sometimes you don't know what they know. And it's humbling because you have to learn from the people that you're leading, and the people that you're leading have to learn from you. The thing that helped me be able to lead is that I made sure that people understood my mission. That the people that I was leading understood my mission always. And my mission is always, I exist to empower a generation to know God personally, serve Him faithfully, and love His people genuinely. That's my existence. I exist for that. Everything that I do is reflective of that, whether I say it or don't say it. And so majority of the time what people pick up on is not about knowing Him or serving Him. What they pick up on is loving and being loved.
Right.
And when they pick up on that mission, it makes it easy to follow. But I've never led anyone who did not eventually, come across God. Because there's no way, God is love. And so there's no way for me to be loving on you and leading you, whether I'm talking about God or not, and He not coming to the mix. Right. He got to. And so that's what, and leadership is tough. When people tell me, you're not right. I know it, I'm right. And I'm like, okay, I'm not right. And in my younger years, you couldn't tell me nothing.
Right.
I was rough, I was tough, I dragged you, I didn't expect you to show up so I could lead you some other. And then, but just as I got older, I started realizing that the people who I was leading, that they were helping me become a better leader. And so they would say stuff like, one moment that really stuck out to me, we were at a choir rehearsal, and this girl got a phone call, one of my friends got a phone call during the rehearsal, and I wasn't paying no attention. Normally I'd have been like, I know you're not answering your phone during the middle of rehearsal, but I didn't say nothing, so I thought that was growth. And when she got done, I didn't notice that her attitude had changed, that her facial expression changed. I didn't notice none of that. I'm going on with rehearsal. All right, sopranos, here go your note, And one of the sopranos came off the platform and she said, you need to stop and check on a leader. And normally I'd have been like, this is my, back in the gap, that's how I would have responded because I was controlling. But I stopped and I was like, let me check on you. And then now, my thought is always to check on everybody. Let me stop what I'm doing to make sure everybody is good. Well, I didn't teach myself that. The people I was leading taught me that. And so leadership is just as much about you being led, I feel like, as it is about you leading. Your people go. Everybody got something.
That's good. So that's good. And the pastor said that he's getting ready to go through a God gotta get you phase, or kind of a reconciliation with your faith. Talk a little bit about that. I think that those who may watch this may be believers and understand, like, everybody has different undulations on this journey of faith, right? And so talk a little bit about the journey that you're preparing to go on, that you are on with your faith, and maybe other times when you feel like your faith may have been challenged. How do you come out of that?
Yeah, so the thing that kind of grounds me in my faith, because it be challenged, but what grounds me in it is I did not get me here.
Yeah.
My story is too immaculate for me to not acknowledge that God, He got to be real. He got to be.
Right.
I'm not. He got to be. But what I mean is this, and I don't really need to minister. It really is who I am. This is how I live my life, and so I can't turn it off. It just be on. But so we think about Jesus, right? And we like, who betrayed Him? And Judas betrayed Him. Judas left Him. That's not what the scriptures say. The scriptures say they all left Him.
Yeah.
Matthew say they all forsook Him. Every disciple.
Right.
What make you and I different?
We ain't.
At some point, in your Christian walk, you're going to want to forsake him.
Yeah.
He going to ask you to do something that's just too hard. He told the disciples one time, he said, all the people that was following him, he said, I want you to eat my flesh and drink my blood. And if you can't do that, you can't follow me. Boy, everybody left.
Yeah.
It was just the disciples who made it. He said, okay, now, y'all need to do that. And they said, what you said is a hard saying. That's what it is, hard.
Right.
And he told Peter, he said, you gonna leave? And Peter said, where else we going?
Yeah.
Who else got the word?
Right. Who else can we go to?
Right. Now, this same Peter, Peter said, I'm not going to forsake you. He said, Peter, as sure as I live, in 3 minutes you're going to deny me. He said, but when you come back.
Right.
That's what he told Peter.
Yeah.
But when you come back, then you can strengthen your brothers.
Right.
Because he knew he was going to leave.
Yeah.
But he also knew he was going to come back. And that's the part that grounds me.
Yeah.
Is that I recognize in myself, and it's so humbling to say, like, things happen in your life to a point where you be like, I'm out of here, I'm finna run. Everybody go through a running stage, I don't care what you say. And I put on my track shoes and what the hell? Y'all got it? I gotta get me, I gotta put me first, Lucius, I gotta put me first. And God is so loving, he's so patient.
Yeah.
But what I love is that heaven's decree over me is, but when you return,
yeah,
you'll be able to strengthen others.
Yeah.
I did not shock him by forsaking him.
Is that a scary thing?
What?
To feel like, to know that you are on the run in a sense, and though you know, theoretically make your way back, God willing, all goes well. Is that a scary thing? To find that you could be.
It is.
Out there on the loose and not have made your way back?
You know, I'm gonna try to stay as connected to the Lord as I can, no matter what. You know, but what I love is that, and what I lean on is the time to be scared. This doesn't have nothing to do with you, right? I'm not likening myself to Jonah. Jonah got to run.
I'm gonna pause you right there. All right, so you said that you get ready to, like, you talked about the season of being away and away, but making your way back. What is that? I mean, yeah, is that fearful for you? Is that scary?
Yeah, it is, because I don't want to run out of time before I figure it out.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
I don't know who's sooner gonna be sooner.
Right. Yeah.
I don't want to hear the horn, and I, you know,
and be out of there.
Hello. So for me, it's like the part that gives me solace is I can still hear him.
Yeah. So you're still in relationship. It just might not be as close or as obedient. What does that mean for you?
So the scripture says, I had it backwards. I thought it was about me loving him.
Mm.
But now I'm having to go back and really figure out the fact that he loved me.
Yeah. As you are.
Mm-hmm. And that's the part the scripture said. It's not that you love me. That's what the scripture said.
Yeah.
He said it's that you know that I first loved you. You don't have the power and the strength to love God for real. And the scriptures say if you love me, you'll obey. So you don't got the strength to obey if you don't recognize that he loved you.
Yeah.
You don't. And so when I stopped feeling like, so why people run, I'm going to tell you, when people start in their faith, when people start, things don't start adding up, you start to question God's love, even though you're not verbally saying that. You do.
Yeah.
So after you've questioned it and questioned it and questioned it, that ability to obey gets less and less and less and less and less. And now you're in the position which God is not upset about. This is not my opinion, this is scriptural. God is not upset about that. Good for your behind. Because the majority of that was self-righteousness anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So now let's get to the real. I love you, Khamisie.
Yeah.
Nothing that you can do is surprising me. Nothing you can do is going to make me stop loving you. When you get that under your belt, then we'll be ready to rock.
That's such a liberating thing too, right? If you believe God is all knowing, all powerful, then you understand that He already knows all of your past, all of your future, and your present.
Yeah.
And He said that nothing could separate us from His love. And so that's a very powerful piece, man.
Yeah. So I just like it's let me rephrase. It's not, I don't know what term to use. I don't want to use scary. I don't want to use fearful. It's just like maybe anticipation.
Yeah.
I'm in because it's I feel like it's my spirit more in anticipation and putting a demand on me than my flesh being afraid of where I am.
Yeah.
And so I love that for me. That's how I know I'm in the safe zone. Is that my spirit still say we can't do that.
Right.
My spirit still say we can't say that. My spirit still say we can't go there. Even though sometimes I still say it.
Hey, that's what I was going to ask you.
Are
you being obedient to the Spirit? Are you being obedient to the Spirit, or are you wilding? Wilding.
Yeah.
Hey, keep it a buck.
I am. That's what I'm saying. Like the part that gives me solace is that I'm not proud necessarily of that. Who would be? But the part that I'm honest about is that I am pleased that God is so loving of me. They would say, you can take whatever you want to, but that Holy Spirit, leave that.
Yeah.
That's you taking it too far to take that. And I feel like, I'll be checking sometimes. Yeah. So I'll get up in the morning and stand in the middle of the floor like I know how to, and just start calling on His name, and the power still fall down in here, and I'll be like, all right, we still got it, Yeah. Or I'll be at school and somebody will say something, and then I'll just start ministering for no reason at all. I say, oh, that thing is still in me. Yeah. I can't shake it. And so now it's just about when you go accept it. You could be a lawyer all you want to because you can minister doing that, but ministry, you're going to do that. Yeah. You're going to do ministry no matter what.
And that's something I feel like we talked about before. You just going to have to come to terms with, right? Some things just, you ain't going to be able to shake it in your blood. Yeah. My man Captain Jack Sparrow said, you have to square with that one day, bro.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's definitely something that you're going to have to come to terms with, because it seems like you said, speaking of law school, you're in law school now, right? So you did the music degrees at ACU, both the undergrad and the master's.
In education.
Yep. Now you've pivoted from education to go to law school. Why?
Law school was always the plan.
Okay.
For me, law school. A friend of mine asked me, what would you do? What did you want to be before the world told you what you couldn't do? And I said, a judge. That's the earliest thing I can recall saying I wanted to be, was a judge.
A judge.
Why? A judge. When under the circumstances for which my mother was murdered, and I remember being young and sitting in court hearings, and the judges were not just.
Yeah.
They were not fair. They appeared evil to me. And at 4 and 5, I said in myself, and I can recall very clearly, I'm going to be a just judge one day. And the older I got, the less I believed it. Because I ain't see black lawyers nowhere.
Wow.
I ain't see. And people started telling me what I couldn't do. And I started believing it. So I started moving in a different way, right? I felt like the black people in my community didn't really support me or love me like that. So I didn't want to go to the black schools, because we have black schools in Odessa. I didn't want to go to Nimitz. I didn't want to go to Permian, because the black people wasn't fooling with me. So I'm going to go over here where music is acceptable, where speaking is the norm, where academia is king, not necessarily sports. I was trying to be different. I ran track. I was good at that. I played tennis. I played gentleman sports. I played tennis, golf. I swam. I ran track. But in Odessa, you ain't nobody if you ain't playing football.
Nope.
You ain't nothing. We don't care if you can sing. What about this?
Right.
Being a church boy, that ain't good either. This, And so I started that because that, kind of swayed me. So at this point, it was like, I got to get out of here. So music was how I saw my way to get out of there.
And so now you're making your way back to
That's right.
passion.
Because what happened was, so I got my master's degree in higher ed.
Uh-huh.
And so when I was working at this last university, I worked at a few universities in 5 years after graduating, built a solid career. And I decided I wanted to start speaking at conferences.
Okay.
Because I feel like speaking is the gift that is the most prevalent in my life. It's the one that matters. It's what I was born to do.
Right.
And so I started speaking at these conferences. And one day during orientation, I was speaking in front of these students, and I was not prepared. I didn't have my ducks in a row, nothing. But when I got done speaking, my students came up to me and they were like, "You didn't have none of that prepared, and you just blew them away." And in that moment, standing there, I was like, I gotta be able to just do this. I need to be paid to do this. But I didn't think of law at that time.
Right.
So fast forward, I said, well, I'm gonna go to DC for my birthday because I wanted to go to Howard.
Yeah, I remember that.
I was gonna go to Howard for my PhD.
Yeah.
Because I was gonna get a PhD in higher ed. So I was vetting doctoral programs. University of Southern California, University of California, and then I decided I don't want that. I want to go to an HBCU.
Okay.
Because I'm ready to be with my people now.
Right.
I'm mature enough and stable enough in who I am to be able to be around Black folks.
Yeah.
So I said, well, I'm gonna go.
We got to come back to that. I need to hear about that perspective, but go ahead.
So I'm gonna go to the Met, as they call it. So I go to DC for my birthday. I go to Howard's campus. I love everything that I'm seeing. I walk into this building, and the lady and the security guard, I'm really talking to her. And she said, "Thank you so much for talking to me." She said, "You know, Dean Rashad is in there." I said, "Who?" She said, "Felicia Rashad." Now, anybody who knows me, I was a Cosby Show fanatic growing up. I loved their family dynamic, and
Right.
Felicia Rashad was a lawyer. And so that always intrigued me because I knew to be a judge, you had to be a lawyer. Living Single also intrigued me because Maxine Shaw was a lawyer. So those shows where there were no other shows with Black folks who were lawyers.
Mm-hmm.
So I was, and so when she said that, I went in there, and long story short, Felicia Rashad was like, "I want to meet him." So I go in there and sit down with the Claire Huxtable for about 45 minutes. She was everything. I'm sitting there crying.
Yeah.
And I just asked her, I was like, "I don't know what I'm supposed to do next." And she was like, "Khamisie, I just see you in front of people. I see you leading. I see you in education. I see you." And she just started pouring into me. And she was like, number one, she said, "You need to be kind." And she said, "In this next season, everything is going to want you to become somebody you're not. And I'm telling you, you are kind." And she just rehearsed that in my ears while I'm sitting there bawling. I didn't know I needed to hear that.
Yeah.
And then I told her I was thinking about going to law school. And she said, "Do that." I got home and immediately applied to law school. Immediately.
Yeah.
And got accepted. And 2 weeks later, I was at orientation at Thurgood Marshall School of Law.
Where we sit tonight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in Houston.
So I want to hear more about the Thurgood Marshall School of Law, but before that, you said something that piqued my interest, where you said that you went to predominantly white institutions previously, but now you feel like you're at a place of maturity where you're ready to go to an HBCU.
Mm-hmm.
Break that down.
Yeah, so...
What do you mean you weren't ready to be around your people before, and now you are?
You want me to give you the academic version, or you want me to give you the homeboys version? Because
I want the raw version.
Okay,
so you can give both if you want.
Okay, so I'll start with the we cool version.
Yeah.
I grew up in the hood. There's all Black people.
Yeah.
And I walked to school with my folks, and my best friends were April Williams and Jamia Graham.
Yeah.
Those were my girls.
Yeah.
And then Paige Lawler.
Yeah, I know them well.
And I don't know if you remember John Tay Williams. There's a boy named John Tay Williams, and we all lived right there on Snyder together. Mm-hmm. And we would get together, we walked to school together every day. I loved it. Right. But the older that I got, I realized that, everybody started playing Pop Warner. The boys did. And the girls, Jamia, April, and they started playing basketball. And I felt like I was too small to play football. I was afraid to do it. And I felt like I was too late to get started in basketball because everybody could already play.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, I just can't do it. I did not realize how important that was going to be. How much my community was going to value sports.
Right.
But I was academically talented, musically talented. I was gifted in incredible ways, but just ways that were just not acceptable to the community. They just did not care about it. So as I got older, I'm trying to sing at the talent show, and now I'm getting teased.
Yeah.
I got a standing ovation. Why y'all teasing me?
For no reason, but being a little different than everybody else.
Right. Or, I want to do the play. That seemed fun.
Right.
Why are you doing the play? You need to be playing basketball, football. I don't want to. Not because I didn't want to. I wanted to really bad. I just didn't feel like I could.
Yeah.
Or that people would accept me doing it. That there was grace for me to be able to learn. So I just did it. So I tested out. I felt like, and this is the honest to God truth, I did not believe I would survive minutes. Because that's where I was supposed to go to school. I didn't believe I would survive it. Because I knew it was going to be nothing but black folks. And not just the black folks from Hayes. It was going to be the black folks from Blackshear, Milam, Travis. It's supposed to be the black folks.
Right.
Because that's where everybody went, was to Nimitz. And then I said, I'm sure not going to Bonham, because that's the other one.
Hey, that's worse.
And Hood, I'm not sure not going to Hood. I'm not going. So I tested.
So Nimitz, Bonham, and Hood are all middle schools in Odessa, Texas.
Right.
Just for clarity.
So I was like, nah, I'm not doing that. So I tested into Ector. Because you have to test. You have to take tests.
Yeah.
I took that test with all my might.
Hey, I gotta get in.
And I got in. I really got in. I passed with flying colors.
Hey.
Well, I was so pleased. And and that used to be a bragging point.
Right.
You going to Ector.
Yeah.
But everybody didn't have AP programs. Everybody didn't have these special art programs. It was only Ector.
Right.
Because it was the academy
at
Ector Junior High. There was only 4 of us black kids in the AP program: me, Shanice LaShaw, Evan Cleaver, and Adam Campbell.
Uh-huh.
It was just us 4 in the whole program in our year, anyway.
Yeah.
And so I'm now surrounded by nothing but Hispanic people and white people.
Yeah.
Culture shock to me. So I was going in and out of my community. Right. So I would go home and be around nothing but black people, go to church, nothing but black people, and then go to school and be around Hispanic people and white people.
Right.
And I was like, okay, I think I like this more,
Yeah.
But I still, I started engaging more with the black folks, and I was like, okay, this is kind of cool. But that same kind of element of no acceptance was just there. The white folks and the Hispanic people, they accepted that it was cool.
Yeah.
But the black folks, you're not on this rock. You don't got the skin in your head. We just don't care. We don't.
Yeah.
We do not care. And that just kind of trailed along. When I got to undergrad, I started experiencing racism for the first time. Because I didn't experience racism when I lived in Odessa.
Okay.
Because it wasn't how, in my opinion, at our age growing up, that wasn't how we were built. The Hispanic people, the black people, we got along phenomenally. The white people I was around were super respectful, very advanced, very culturally accepting. I mean, my friend group, I was non-denominational, apostolic Pentecostal. And then they were Episcopalian, agnostic, atheist, Catholic,
right.
And we got along great.
Yeah.
No disrespect, nothing. I got to ACU and I was like, my boy, they're saying some stuff that just not set right with my spirit. It was the first time somebody said they could, my name is Khamisie, can I call you something else? Why?
Right.
Just say Khamisie. I've never been asked that in my life growing up. Never.
Yeah.
And so stuff like that started happening, and then I was like, no, I can't. So that's switching into the academic part, because being black is a process. And so you start becoming black. You have to develop into blackness. And so because I took myself out of the black experience, it took me longer to develop into a place where I felt like I could be comfortable around black people. Because I never challenged, I did not permit myself to live through the challenge of being able to fit into that community. I took myself out.
Yeah. The challenge of being roasted, the challenge of being talked about.
Uh-huh.
But But for the record, everybody was gonna get it, no matter what you
Yeah,
did.
yeah.
I played ball. I played all of them, and I got in some of the worst. So I
Yeah.
know, like, and that's just part of growing up.
Yeah.
Part of
I didn't grow up with that because in the house it was just me. It was me and my granny. I wasn't around my cousins. They weren't doing it, whatever. It was just me. And so then when I left ACU, I went to Hardin Simmons, still in the majority white space. And then my education just started kicking in. And there's a theory, it's called the Neverson's theory. And you move into a place called immersion. And immersion, that's when you experience Black rage. And every Black person in Black development will experience Black rage, and it is a normal part of your development. It is normal.
Mm-hmm.
If you are developing Black human, you will experience Black rage in America, a Black American. And so that Black rage got on me, and I don't want to be around nothing that's not Black, and that's normal. And so now I'm a little bit beyond the Black rage part, and now I'm in the immersion part, because Black rage is like fire. And immersion is what's going to cool you down.
Right.
And so I decided I needed to get around Black people so I could be fully immersed in Black spaces around Black people, so that that rage can simmer, so that I can move on to synergy, which is a nice thing.
I think that's an interesting dynamic, and obviously not ideal that you have to go through kind of that development maturity process to get to this point, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
So now you're here at Thurgood Marshall School of Law. We know why you're here, right? Tell us a little bit about how's the experience going so far, and what are you hoping to? All right, how's the experience? When do you graduate? And then what are you hoping to do post graduation with your life?
Yeah. So I have I graduated in May of 2025. Praise God. It's 2.5 years away. Sheesh, I can't wait.
God bless you.
Yeah, I'm gonna be Dr. Khamisie Green Esquire.
Okay. I like the sound of that.
Yeah. And the experience, I'm tired. I'm more tired than I've ever been in my whole entire life. I've read more in the last semester than I have in my entire, I want to say other 2 degrees, maybe in my entire life. I have read until, like, y'all see these Harry Potter books sitting here? I read these books.
These are not just props.
No, I read these books, and I got 6 of them laying around here. And but it's challenging, and it's different because I'm around brilliant Black people. All of us can speak.
Yeah.
All of us got talent.
Yeah.
All of us have a story. All of us have that experience. And so now I don't have to champion diversity. I don't got to champion that kind of stuff. So now I can really see, what do I care about? Who am I in real life? Because I don't got to focus on being Black. Now that barrier is gone. So now I can really find out what has Khamisie really got in the tank?
Yeah.
Who are you for real? And so, it's a reading degree. Law school is a reading.
That's why I didn't do it.
Degree. Master's programs. My education degree was a writing degree.
Yeah.
And my music degree was a skills degree. And the reading degree is the most difficult because it's so voluminous. A teacher assigned us just last week to read pages 1 through 162, and we had a day or 2 to do it. And to brief, which essentially means to write a summary over the 25 cases that you're going to read that are judicial cases. We don't know what they're talking about. They talk in Latin.
Yeah.
In here. They say stuff we had never heard before: a remiter, an additor, an inter alia, sua sponte. What does all this mean? So you got to stop and Google the word during the middle of reading.
Right.
And it's just, it's a lot. And when you leave here, I'll probably go read a chapter or 2.
God bless you.
Yeah, because it's super, super challenging, because the grade actually matters this time. Because that's how they're going to hire. You got a 3.5 and this dude got a 4.0. You can be 10 times better than him. Most of the time, they're going to hire the 4.0 dude just off the strength.
Yeah.
And that's crazy to me, because that's not how it works in almost any other degree. And so it's competitive. And Thurgood is one of the only schools, I think, in the nation that operates on a C curve, which means the majority of our students are getting C's. But our C at any other law school would equal a B.
Gotcha.
So trying to get a B or an A here is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Out of 220 students, 20 people don't get an A. Maybe 50 will get a B. Everybody else gets a C. And you get a C and you be like, I'm slow because I ain't never got a C.
Yeah.
What is this? Now you're trying to read harder and do all of this different. It changes your mind, how you process, how you read. You should see how fast I read at this point. My attitude is different.
Right.
I just hope I process faster information.
Yeah.
It's interesting how it works.
You enjoying the experience?
I am. I
As much as you can?
as much as I can. My goal is to give as much to Thurgood and to take as much from Thurgood as I can. Because when I leave, I want to be able to say Thurgood owes me nothing,
Yeah.
and I owe it nothing.
Speaking of giving, you currently are on the campaign trail for
I am.
vice president. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah,
what is that?
So each class has a class president
Okay.
and vice president on these things, and so I decided to run to be the vice president of the first year law student class.
Okay.
And so there's 5 of us that are running. And I launched my campaign. My campaign managers are phenomenal. My squad is standing behind me firmly. And I think that we're running a great campaign. We have debates tomorrow.
Oh, that's lit.
And they're putting me in my wheelhouse. And I love that for me. Because I'm a national debater. I understand debate. Speech is my strong suit.
Yeah.
So speaking, let's do it.
Yeah.
Put me in front of as many people as you can. And I'm the type. The more people that's there, the more comfortable I am. The less people that's there don't matter because I was raised to do this with many of you.
Right.
So I'm ready. So I love that for me. I hope to win so that I can serve my community.
That's dope, man. I'm excited for you. I'm looking forward to hopefully there'll be some videos or something that I can get some glimpses of you doing your thing. As we kind of get ready to close out a little bit here, I want to talk and get some pieces of wisdom that you might have for the audience. But before we do that, what do you hope to do after law school? What do you want to do once you have this degree? Is there a certain goal? Is it just, hey, let me get it first and then I'll figure it out as I'm getting there? Or what are your thoughts?
I was about to say something that I'm going to take back. I'm going to say it so that I can correct myself because I think it'll help somebody. I was about to say, well, this is my lofty goal. Every dream I have is possible.
Yeah.
Everyone. I'm living a dream right now.
Right.
In real time. And so I want to be a congressman.
Okay.
I almost started crying.
I can see
I
that.
want to be a congressman.
I can see that.
I do. And so, man, boy, you don't know what's in you until you start. Yeah, I'm a dream chaser. I'm a dream catcher at this point.
Yeah.
And so once I didn't call one dream, and now I feel like I'm on a roll.
Yeah.
So let's just
it's feasible.
Yeah.
You see it.
And so, but you know, my godmother said that to me. She said, she was talking about the church, but I just heard her so different. She said, that's my dog. I love her. She said, we are ambassadors for Christ. She said, and the congregation is called the congregation because this is the Congress.
Yeah.
And she said, and in the Congress, she said, that's where decisions are made. She said, that's where laws are created. And she said, the people of God ought to be able to get together and the scriptures say, decree a thing.
Right.
And it'll be established.
Yeah.
She said, and if we're in the Congress or in the congregation, that means we need congressmen. And I felt like she looked me in my soul when she said that.
Right.
And it was like something in me just leaped. It accepted that. And I was like, oh, I'm supposed to be a congressman. Okay, got it.
Right.
And it has not left me. It just stuck with me. So immediately following law school, to get there, I mean, God got his plan, but I intend to go into criminal defense. I want to be a defense attorney. And so I think that there are a lot of people who need defending, and I intend to defend them with all of my might.
Okay.
To be a voice for people who have lost the opportunity to use their voice.
Yeah.
And so, you know, there are people who are wrongly accused, children who are being shot dead in the street, you know, people who are being used, and in being forced into contracts through fraudulent terms and economic duress and undue influence.
Yeah.
And I want to stand beside them and argue that case on the courtroom floor.
Would you defend somebody who said they're guilty?
That I know is guilty?
Yeah.
That's a question we get a lot. And I have the right to decline a case if I so choose. I believe if I'm working for myself, of course I do. I don't know the answer to that question.
That's a good answer. Not to give an answer.
Yeah, I don't know the answer.
We don't want anything to be on here that could incriminate you in the future.
Yeah, that's why I said I don't know the answer to that question.
All right, well, cool. So before we hop off here, man, you got a great story, right? Talking about growing up in a troubled upbringing, growing up in the hood, raised by your grandmother, parents died at an early age. Talked about navigating the sphere, which is the Black community, and how you perceived to be different, had to or chose to navigate those experiences. You reconcile all of that, get 2 degrees, undergraduate, master's degree, start a great career, come to law school. A great story of resilience is what you have, right? About everything that you have been through to get to the point that you're in today, and obviously still more resilience, more strength, more success to be achieved and to be shown. But I guess what would be a piece of advice for someone who may be younger or even older who's going to watch or hear this and say, hey, his story may resonate with me, or look up to what you're doing? What a piece of advice would you give to those people?
I would say 2 things. Well, no, I'm going to say 1 thing. To start something, you have to be willing to come out of agreement with what's ended. And the scripture says that better is the ending of a thing than the beginning of a thing. And I love that, because when I initially heard it, I was like, no, because I love starting stuff. I love starting new projects and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And then it dawned on me one day, really here just in the last 2 weeks, that everything that I've had to start, I had to come out of alignment and agreement with what had to end for me to be able to start this.
Yeah, that's deep. You gotta sit there and think about that for a little bit.
Yeah, overthink that.
Yeah.
Because, for me to come to law school, I had to come out of agreement with what I could not do. I had planned to go to law school in 2017.
Right.
I had already filled out my law school application in 2017. My letters of rec were done in 2017. It took me this long to get here because I didn't think I could do it.
Yeah.
I didn't think I was smart enough. But when I came out of alignment with that, I was able, and that ended. Better was the ending of that thing.
Yeah.
And that's where I see people would think, you're going to law school is where I hang my hat. No. I hang my hat on. I was able to end this season of not believing that I could do it.
Right.
And that's what empowered me to start this. Better is the ending of the thing.
Yeah. Because
that's what's empowering you to start this new thing. And so how does that translate to people? Everything that you want to start, you need to identify what has to end for you to start that. And if you're not willing to end this, your desire to start, how bad do you want it?
Right.
How bad do you want it?
That's good.
And I didn't realize, because my deal was that I've always been a starter. I'm going to start something. I'm going to start some mess. I'm going to start some drama. I'm going to stir this pot. I'm going to start something.
Right.
In any space that I'm in. I'm going to start a group. I'm going to start a club. I'm going to start a podcast. I'm going to start this. I'm going to start something. And I just thought it was about starting, but it's not.
Yeah.
The reason I'm so impassioned about starting is because of what I want to end. My commitment to the ending of the thing. And so I think that perspective, that truth, is so empowering to somebody. I don't want this to end. Better is the ending of that thing.
Yeah.
than the start of whatever you want to get into. Just go on and end it. You can't walk. See, that's the last thing I'm gonna say. No. That's how I have to say it. So you don't get to walk into multiple doors. A door got closed for another door to open.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get to walk out of a door and leave that door open and then go into another door.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get to walk out of one glory and enter into another glory and the other glory closed. The way that God operates is He closes the glory down and then say, get up and move. You don't know where you're going.
Yeah.
Because you're a pilgrim. He told Abraham, He said, Abraham, get up and leave your father's house. Abraham said, where I'm going. God said, I'll tell you by and by. He said, but what I will tell you is that I got a promise for you. Boy, Abraham went to packing them bags because he believed.
Right.
And better was the ending of that thing.
Yeah.
Than even the journey that he began.
Yeah.
Because if he never ended his father's house, we would never have Father Abraham.
Right.
And so he got up and he got to get it. And so that's how I'm like perceiving this entire journey now. And that's what I would encourage anybody to do is just go on and end it. Go on and let that thing die. Let it end. And understanding that ending of that glory, because it starts to wane, the glory starts to wane. We used to work, don't work no more. We used to feel good, don't feel no more. Feel good no more. When you don't feel comfortable like you used to feel comfortable, it's because God is shutting that glory down to give you an indication that it's time to move on to a new one.
Yeah.
It's time for you to move on to a new one. Then when the door closed, now you're looking around because you think that, all right, the door just here. Now sometimes you gotta wait.
Right.
Sometimes you gotta wait for that new glory to open. But if God told you to end it, it's because He has already determined a start date, a start location, a start time. And so if He told you to end it, it's because He got a start in mind. And I love that. I love that for me.
Right.
I love that for you. I love that for us. We think him saying end it is the end. No. I love the scripture say He is the beginning and the end. I love that.
Yeah.
He is both simultaneously at the same time. Not one and then the other. So at the same time, something is beginning, something is ending. And at the same time, something is ending, it is also beginning. And that's the biggest piece of advice I can give anybody at this point. So.
Well, Congressman, future Congressman, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining this project. I'm looking forward to sharing it with people, man. Really appreciate your time.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for joining the I'm Just Curious project. I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and I hope it leaves you inspired to live curious.